Good evening and welcome if you're tuning in at the beginning of our stream. Our services will begin at the top of the hour. Okay, we're about 2 minutes from the beginning of our service. Appreciate all who are tuning in thus far. As always, if there's any announcements that need to be made, certainly let me know. Let's see, we've got a few tuning in already. We have Stuart, Mark, Andrew, Patrick. Yes, there is Patrick, Caden, and Sherry. Stuart, Mark, Andrew, Patrick, Caden, and Sherry. We have David and Alice, and Kathy, and we just added Larry on the phone. About 45 seconds to the top of the hour. Appreciate each one tuning in this evening. Our crowd was on the low side this morning, but certainly had a good service. We had a lot listening online. Appreciate everyone taking time to tune in. About 30 seconds to the top of the hour. And if there's anyone you need to include on the prayer list, sick, or any other requests, certainly let us know, or any announcements, send them to us. All right, we're just a few seconds from the top of the hour. I think I got everyone acknowledged who is listening. I had mentioned this morning that I was going to speak on a passage that, I was thought to do this passage because of the great change of weather that we've got coming in. Here it is, nighttime already in December. It's almost 70 degrees, but overnight they're expecting the temperatures to drop almost 50 degrees. And so quite a drop overnight. And so I'm going to speak on a passage from Isaiah. Number 457, How Firm a Foundation. This does play into the lesson in that we it doesn't matter if what happens to us. Certainly, by obeying the Lord, it's a very firm foundation. And I think you'll see how it plays, hopefully, into the lesson tonight. Number 457. How firm a foundation, he saints of the Lord, is laid for your faith in his excellent word. What more can he say than to you he has said, you who unto Jesus for refuge have fled? Fear not, I am with thee, O be not dismayed. I am thy God, and will still give thee aid. I'll strengthen thee, help thee, and cause thee to stand, upheld by my gracious omnipotent hand. The soul that on Jesus hath leaned for repose, I will not desert to his foes. That soul, though all hell should endeavor to shake, I'll never, no, never, no, never forsake. Okay, as I had mentioned, I think at the noon class, I had mentioned we were going to be speaking from Isaiah chapter 28, verse 20. And what prompted this lesson is the great drop of temperatures that they're expecting overnight, close to a 50-degree drop. And by tomorrow night, from tonight until tomorrow night, will probably be ended up a total of more than that. So it's going to be a very cold time. And probably tonight you'll want to be very comfortable and cozy in your bed with warm covers. And this verse addresses of just trying to sleep when the conditions are making you miserable. And we'll read this verse and see what led up to it. Isaiah 28, verse 20. For the bed is shorter than that a man can stretch himself on it, and the covering narrower than that he can wrap himself in. Two things are mentioned here that would make it very difficult sleeping. One, if you had a bed that was too short to stretch yourself out, you can imagine how that would be uncomfortable, trying to lay on something that just wasn't quite long enough, and there's just no way you could get comfortable during the night. And then also the fact that your covering is so narrow that you can't wrap yourself in it. You can't get it around you and stay warm. You cover up one part and another part comes uncovered. And what led the Lord to say this to them, that this was happening to them? And what had they done? Ephraim, to whom he's writing this, brought this up upon themselves by the things they had been doing. And one of the reasons I sung How Firm a Foundation is that we don't have to worry with the Lord about things not covering us spiritually or being too short for us. Everything is just right. We have a firm foundation with the Lord. But let's look and see what brought this verse about, what that they were doing. Back in verse 1 of Isaiah 20. Woe to the crown of pride, to the drunkards of Ephraim, whose glorious beauty is a fading flower, who are on the head of the fat valleys of them that are overcome with wine. He mentions really four things here that was wrong with Ephraim. Of course, Ephraim was one of the sons of Joseph, but obviously talking about the descendants thereof. First of all, he said they had a crown of pride. The Lord has never liked for people to be prideful. He wants them to be humble, contrite, and certainly trusting in him. So they had a crown. They were wearing it, like a crown or a diadem, that they had pride. Then he says to the drunkards of Ephraim. Obviously, this is something that's mentioned a lot in the Old Testament. about people being overcome with wine and strong drink. And there could be a metaphor here that they're just drunken with all the things about them of the world, even if it wasn't alcohol. Then it says, whose glorious beauty is a fading flower. You know, I think about so often as people grow older, they try to do things to keep their beauty. I know all of you have seen movie stars who had surgery to try to maintain their beauty, but it actually ended up making them look far worse. And he talks about beauty as being a fading flower. If we live long enough, beauty is going to fade, whatever beauty that we might have. I know that you all have seen movie stars who just no longer come out in public because they don't look like they used to. The only true and eternal beauty is the beauty we have in the Lord. Then he talks about Ephraim, which are on the head of the fat valleys of them that are overcome with wine. He talks about those overcome with wine, but it says Ephraim was at the head of these fat or verdant, it says in the New King James, very green valleys of them that are overcome with wine. They were at the top of the drunkards and those who are overcome with wine. So four things really are mentioned in this one verse that Ephraim was doing. One's repeated about the wine and drunkards, but four different things. Behold, the Lord hath a mighty and strong one, which as a tempest of hail and a destroying storm, as a flood of mighty waters overflowing, shall cast down to the earth with a hand. And so the Lord is going to cast them down because their pride, their drunkenness, and trying to hang on to their beauty, the Lord's going to cast them down with a mighty hand. It says with a tempest of hail, a destroying storm. Certainly we're in a situation even tonight where not so much storms are expected, but certainly very strong winds. Like I said, we might have some gusts up to 55 miles an hour. Well, that could be certainly a destructive wind. And the Lord's going to destroy them with a tempest of hail and a destroying storm because of their pride and the other things. As a flood of mighty waters overflowing shall cast down to the earth with a hand. And once again he mentions the crown of pride, the drunkards of Ephraim, shall be trodden under feet. So that's two of the things from verse 1 that he pulls back out. Their pride they had and their drunkenness. No doubt some literal here, but probably figuratively as well, being drunk with their pride and their beauty that they had once had. Certainly being drunk turns one's mind from clear thinking. And whatever they were doing, they weren't thinking clearly now as people of God. And he says they're going to be trodden under feet. And the glorious beauty which is on the head of the fat valley. So the things he had addressed in verse 1, he adds a little bit more to it. And the glorious beauty which is on the head of the fat valley. They're sitting at a very good place, a very verdant and green area. It was a fat valley with everything. It says, shall be a fading flower, and as a hasty fruit before the summer, which when he that looketh upon it seeth, while it is yet in his hand, he eateth it up. And so it says they're going to fade away like a fruit that comes in too soon. Someone grabs it and just eats it up. They're going to fade away quickly because of their pride and drunkenness and the glorious beauty that they had. No doubt that was part of their pride. If you remember, that was really the issue with Satan. A couple of things was, one, talks about he was perfect in the day he was created, until iniquity was found in him. It talks about his beauty and how that he was. And then he was brought down to the sides of the pit. And so this is going to happen similarly to Ephraim. In that day shall the Lord of hosts be for a crown of glory, and for a diadem of beauty unto the residue of his people. The people who have remained faithful, the residue of his people, the Lord would be the crown of glory for them, not pride, and for a diadem of beauty. It's going to be like a crown of beauty because they're serving the Lord, not the beauty that one would expect of a physical nature, but of serving the Lord. And for a spirit of judgment to him that sitteth in judgment, and for strength to them that turn the battle to the gate. He's going to give justice. So part of Ephraim, what they may have been doing, it was very common. And it's mentioned many times in the Old Testament that people were giving judgment for money. They would do it for gifts and favors. And so He's going to give a spirit of justice to him that sitteth in judgment. He's going to make the people judge correctly, and strength to them that turn the battle to the gate. So he's going to give people the right heart and physical strength. But they also have erred through wine, and through strong drink are out of the way. The priest and the prophet have erred through strong drink. They are swallowed up of wine. They are out of the way through strong drink. They err in vision, they stumble in judgment. No doubt there was very much problem with drinking among these people, so much so that the priests and those, even the remnant that was left, were having clouded judgment due to their consumption of wine. Part of it was where they were at. You know, if you live in a place where a lot of wine is produced, you're going to have easy access to it. I remember when Ruby and I went to Napa, California, in Sonoma. I guess it was after church on Sunday morning. I did preach that morning, and we went into a grocery store. I think I was a little stunned and overwhelmed at just how much wine was available to purchase because it was in a wine producing area. It was everywhere. It was just a regular grocery store. And no doubt Ephraim, because they were sitting at this fat, verdant valley, had a lot of this produced, and they were partaking of it, and it was clouding their judgment. For all tables are full of vomit and filthiness, so that there is no place clean. As I was reading this chapter this week and preparing for tonight, because I knew what the forecast was going to be, I had seen it, and I thought I'd go ahead and get this lesson together. And I was reading this a few days ago, and this really is a sickening thought, to think about trying to find a place to eat. You sit down at a table, and someone has vomited there. I know that's not pleasant, nor is it meant to be. That's the way they were before the Lord. They were to be serving Him, but instead their table, where you serve, was full of vomit and filthiness, so that there is no place clean. That's not a pleasant thought at all, and the Lord is making the point. That's how they were to Him. Whom shall He teach knowledge, and whom shall He make to understand doctrine? Them that are weaned from the milk and drawn from the breast. And so, who am I going to teach? Of course, someone is just drawn from, drinking milk from their mother. They're going to be very young. The older ones had just gone. He said, who am I going to teach? It does remind me a little bit of Jeremiah. And here's the way that they were following things. But they were going through every little detail. I like the way this is worded. For precept must be upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line, here a little and there a little. What they were doing were going through the law and making sure they checked off boxes, if you will. It's like coming to worship at Munfordville. And you take the Lord's Supper, and it's more like, check, okay, I did that. All right, I gave some money. All right, we're fine. And then your heart's not in it. You treat people unkindly. You cheat people. You're a drunkard, perhaps adultery. And what they were doing was really going through a checklist of things. Their heart was not right. But they were just doing precept upon precept, line upon line, here a little, there a little. They would just do it whenever it pleased them, and really getting by with as little as possible. For stammering lips and another tongue will He speak to this people. He's going to go elsewhere and talk to this people in a different way, and stammering lips and another tongue. No doubt probably some references of the Gentiles coming in. To whom He said, this is the rest wherewith He may cause the weary to rest. And this is the refreshing, yet they would not hear. The Lord had offered them rest and refreshing, but they wouldn't listen. They were fighting an uphill battle, and He said, I'll give you rest. I'll refresh you, but they wouldn't listen. But the word of the Lord, once again, He mentions what He did just 3 verses ago. But the word of the Lord was unto them precept upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line, here a little and there a little, that they may go and fall backward and be broken and snared and taken. They weren't making any progress with the Lord. They were doing a little bit here, a little bit there, but their heart wasn't right. And they would go but fall backwards. I know you all have heard sometimes when you feel like you're not making progress, maybe 1 step forward and 2 steps backward. That's what was happening with them. They would be broken, snared, and taken. Wherefore, hear the word of the Lord. ye scornful men, that rule this people which is in Jerusalem. So he's addressing the scornful people who are ruling, because you have said. Now they had made a covenant with death. People often make agreements, to have a better deal, or it could be financial or for better land or something. But they made a deal with death and hell. Because you have said, we have made a covenant with death, and with hell are we at agreement. When the overflowing scourge shall pass through, it shall not come to us. For we have made lies our refuge, and under falsehood have we hid ourselves. They thought they had an agreement and a covenant with death and hell, that nothing could happen to them. Why? Because they were believing lies. So many people are doing that even today. They believe in lies that they've been taught by a false doctrine and a false group, and they're making a deal with death and hell that's not going to hold up. Therefore thus saith the Lord God, behold, I lay in Zion for a foundation, a stone, a tried stone, a precious cornerstone, a sure foundation. He that believeth shall not make haste. Whoever believes will not act hastily. You'll approach it, wisely and do the right thing. You'll not just quickly believe and leave, if you will. And of course, he's talking about Jesus. Now, we're almost back to verse 20 of where he said that about the cover. Judgment also will I lay to the line, and righteousness to the plummet. Of course, that's a weight at the end of a string. And the hail shall sweep away the refuge of lies, and the waters shall overflow the hiding place. So the lies that they had trusted in, he's going to measure with a line and plummet, and hail would sweep away the lies, and waters would overflow where they'd been hiding. And your covenant with death shall be disannulled, and your agreement with hell shall not stand. You can't make a deal with death or hell. It's not going to stand. You can't cheat that, if you will. I was thinking earlier, here we are at the last Lord's Day of the year. And I can't help but think of how many, perhaps you have friends and family, who have not even attended services once this year. Can you imagine? Ruby and I were talking to it. We were actually sitting outside, and did yesterday and some today, and I said, here we are, the last Lord's Day of the year. Can you imagine getting to the end of the year and you have never even attended services once? She said, I don't want to imagine it. And that makes a good point. People are counting on the Lord not returning or them not dying in an accident or sickness and hoping there'll be time to obey later. If that continues on, it will catch up with them. Why? Because their covenant with death shall be disannulled, and their agreement with hell shall not stand. When the overflowing scourge shall pass through, then you shall be trodden down by it. 2 more verses. From the time that goeth forth it shall take you. For morning by morning shall it pass over, by day and by night, and it shall be a vexing only to understand the report. I could have had a whole lesson on that. The news coming to them is so bad. He said it would be a vexation to even just hear the message, to understand it. Not what's actually happening, but just to hear it. And it's something they can't fix themselves. Back to our first verse and our last verse tonight. For the bed is shorter than that a man can stretch himself on it, and the covering narrower than that he can wrap himself in it. That's a miserable situation to be in. I hope tonight you're warm and cozy with plenty of cover, and that you fit in your bed well. But if you don't, you're going to be miserable. And that's not something you can fix yourself. You can't just make a bed bigger. You can't add to the cover just by wishing it was there. You have to make true changes. A different bed or a different cover. There's an old saying that you've made your bed, now you've got to lie in it. They had made their bed. It was too short. They didn't have enough cover. The only way they can do is to change the bed and change the covers. And change their hearts to serve the Lord. Well, if you will, turn to our last song this evening, number 461, Be Not Dismayed, Whatever Betide. And the reason I picked this song, that no matter what happens, if we're serving the Lord, the bed's not going to be too short, and the covers will not be too wide. I hope you'll think of this lesson when you lay there and snuggle all warm tonight and realize your covers are big enough, your bed's long enough, and you can have everything just right spiritually by serving the Lord. Let's sing these 4 verses and have some closing comments. Be not dismayed, whate'er betide, God will take care of you. Beneath his wings of love abide, God will take care of you. God will take care of you through every day or all the way. He will take care of you. God will take care of you. I just sung one verse because that really provided the thought that I wanted to, and I actually went a little long with the lesson, so I just sung the one verse. We added, I think I got Kathy in, but I don't have her marked as having read her text. Beverly joined us this evening, and Jean. Certainly good to have everyone. Hope everyone is safe during this weather and the great change that's coming just for the next couple of days. Very cold, and then it moderates a little bit. But always keep our neighbors and friends in need. If anyone needs anything, any help ever with fuel or heating, certainly don't hesitate to contact the church for assistance. And we want everybody to survive this winter very well. Don't really have anyone new to add to the announcements. Of course, Stuart's sister Rhonda Ford and his parents Herbert and Betty Franklin. Stuart and Sharon weren't feeling too good today. And so really nothing new to add to the sick list, and that's good news. Hope everyone has a really good new year. Well, we'll be together once more online on Wednesday evening, and since that is the last day of the year, that's going to be the lesson, the last day. If there is nothing else, let's close with a prayer. Our Father, as we come to Thee in prayer, we're so very thankful for this very warm Lord's Day that we've had at the end of the year, and yesterday as well. And we do pray that you'll protect us as we go into the new year and through this very cold weather. Forgive us of our sins. Take care of the sick that we've mentioned. Bring us together again Wednesday evening online, and finally save us all in heaven. In Jesus' name, amen. I did get a message from Beverly Gossett right during the prayer. She said, Becky and I lost a first cousin in Washington State. And so you can tell me, or I may give you a call after a while and get the details on that. I assume you're talking about Becky from Center there. And so certainly sorry for your loss. All right, thank everyone for tuning in, and we'll see everyone Wednesday.